After they each took power, the Sahel's new trio of military regimes organized together into a bloc called the Alliance of Sahel States. In the Sahel is a war being fought in the dark.
The three key nations that have been taken over by their respective militaries in the 2020s. First Mali, then Burkina Faso, and finally Niger. We should note that the nation of Guinea on the Malian border was also taken over in a coup in 2021, but Guinea won't be relevant to today's discussion. After they each took power, the Sahel's new trio of military regimes organized together into a bloc called the Alliance of Sahel States. In all three nations, the military regimes have cited common grievances: the inability of civilian governments to deal with what was a rising jihadist insurgency at that time, the corruption of those civilian governments more broadly, and resentment toward France, the United States, and other Western security backers. That resentment was partially motivated by those nations' perceived failures in helping the Sahel to deal with the jihadist problem, and particularly by the very long history of French colonial exploitation in this part of the world.
That is why the selected excerpt ties the claim to the current regional power contest. Inside the Sahel's brutal war, civilians face jihadists, military regimes, and foreign mercenaries. Strategically, the useful question is who gets more leverage from this move, who loses room to maneuver, and what the shift means beyond the clip itself. For the audience, the takeaway is to watch the leverage. Who gets to decide, who has to respond, and whose version of the region becomes harder to ignore. In plain terms, the clip matters because the specific claim points to a larger struggle over leverage, legitimacy, and who gets to define the next move. So before we can get into the dire threats that the Sahel communities face, we first got to understand the balance of power in this part of the world. This event signals a broader shift in power across the Black world.